Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Shadowverse. Today is Friday, June 18th. So let's just hop into the game. I don't have a lot of stuff to talk about as far as the accountability section. Looks like we've got an update here, but it probably won't take too long. I played a little bit of Left 4 Dead 2, and I do still feel like Left 4 Dead 2 is a major improvement over Left 4 Dead 1, but there is major problems kind of in the pacing of what it is as looking at it as a single player, either action zombie shooter or horror zombie shooter. Either direction, there's pacing problems, and I feel like the AI director in Left 4 Dead 2 is arguably not as good. Let's see. Play private matches for a daily chance to win 500,000 rupees. Wow, that is a lot of rupees. Let's see what happens if I click this event page. Registration period here. I guess either you register by just playing, and I've already missed one day, which this is the problem with certainly doing something, not playing this game every single day, or you go to the website. Let's see if that will actually load the website. If it did, it made a tab really far away. So yeah, I'm not really making a lot of progress on Left 4 Dead 2 because it's such a generic game. Let's see. Buy 10 free packs of this expansion. Sure. There's no reason not to do that at all, as far as I can tell. And if there was some secret reason why to not do that yet, they certainly didn't make that obvious. My neighbor is getting our roof redone, which is causing some annoying banging today. That's pretty much all that's going on. I'm still heavily being distracted by the Amazon Prime Day. What I want to happen for Prime Day and what's likely to happen on Prime Day are two very different things. Like, I heavily tend to lean into wanting electronics and gadgets more practical or non-electrical things, and I suspect on this Prime Day that is not going to happen. If I could get one Samsung S20 Followers Edition or Founders Edition, whatever the FE stands for, that would be great if I could get that on sale cheap. But mostly I'm looking at like Nintendo Switch games and Switches and Joy-Cons, and I bet none of that goes on sale at all. Not the official Joy-Cons. Maybe there will be some third-party controllers that aren't worth grabbing. And then that's pretty much the only thing I'm really looking for. Micro SD cards. Certainly I could use a couple more of those, but that's about it. So I feel like I'm highly likely to spend 48 hours looking for sales that just never show up. Prime Day has always been kind of more of an excuse to spend money and justify having the Amazon Prime on your account than it really was an excuse to save. It being shifted a little bit away from November helps a little bit, but it still is very close to the Steam summer sale, which I suspect is going to happen in less than a week. Also was, speaking of cell phones, looking at the prepaid, I believe it's Mint Mobile, setup, and it's like, yeah, the best way to get the most amount of savings with Mint Mobile is to prepay a full year in advance. So just like a year's worth of cell phone bills all at once. And it does seem like that probably save me about half the cost, but I would definitely want to find a month out of the year where no other sales or no other big expenditures happened to try and balance that out. And I'd want to, and you have to bring your own phone, so I'd have to balance that off a different time when cell phones come out, and cell phones tend to come out in about October, I would say. That seems to be about where they start to get announced. Well, we're getting new cards, obviously. Now, I suppose there's no reason not to also just spend this free pack. I did put up the post on RetroPie to allow it to set up audit music and video. It's been roughly 3 days and nobody has commented on it at all. I do know 67 people have looked at it, which arguably, like, at this point, I'll take apathy over outward hostility any day on live code submissions. I think, though, there is a decent chance that this forum post will just slowly move down the ladder and never be seen by anybody who could actually get it into the final build. Which that kind of sucks. Like, I think on their forum there's a bit of a Reddit style vote up, vote down system, and I don't think anybody's really voted it up or voted it down. So it really just does feel like no feedback at all. And normally I would find that incredibly frustrating, but in all reality, at this level, I've had so many pretty awful experiences when submitting codes or even trying to begin a dialogue as far as conversations and things like that. That I'll take silence at this point. I think silence is much more preferable, or apathy. Private match. Another private match ends without us quitting, so once again, I think I'm gonna have to come in here and bring up the Discord and join a private match, and I suspect another private match will probably be asked to be played once again after the first private match. Shadowverse still has just major problems with that, though. Let's see. 42057. This probably won't work. Yep. 33109. And so we want to make sure if we are doing just, this looks like this is just a private rotation game. Whereas I think we need to do the take two. Yeah, Treasure Trove of Rupees event. One private match. Actually, I think that would have worked. So 33109. Alright, well, we'll select play and ready. So there today, over the past couple days, with E3 being done and being mostly a disappointment, as much as I think every E3 in the past decade has been mostly a disappointment, and we need to quit kidding ourselves and pretending like it will ever be anything more than just mostly a disappointment. But with that being done, there wasn't a lot of E3 or game announcements or news, but there is a massive amount of games that came out on Steam, which I think a lot of those might certainly be around the next fest and the 700 plus demos that they released. I think around the time of E3, there was somewhat a higher number of small indie games this year that kind of announced themselves, but they got drowned out, certainly for most people. Most people did not see or hear those announcements, which definitely highlights the silliness of potentially trying to have a announcement for a AA or an indie or AAA game or even lower tier game. Like you just aren't gonna have that publishing money in front of you. Yep, I heard at least one mainstream video game journalist also talk about how that they did not like E3 this year specifically because they were not given that special behind the scenes or access to video games, so they weren't being treated any differently than the average person watching a live stream. And if anything, I think that is probably even more of an argument to see all presentations of new games happen as live streams, pre-recorded live streams, and not big let's all go to Vegas events that they've done in the past. Alright, so what I'm going to try and do today, since I'm starting fairly early, I was potentially, if I had gotten up a little bit earlier, I would have played another episode of Left 4 Dead 2, and then I would have been tired. But what I'm going to try to do today is burn through a large amount of the a large amount of the tabs and do some follow list cleanup. We are constantly ambitious to do follow list cleanup, and certainly it would be helpful to try and clean up as much of that as possible before the summer Steam sale, but it doesn't probably really matter. Yeah, I'm definitely questioning like whether I'll be buying a lot on this Steam summer sale. I've been buying some Lego things too, which my backlog as far as Lego sets is getting a little high. Let's see. Alright, well, 5 damage then.
You were done for. Put your legs into each prayer.
In my eyes.
And we can't evolve that. So, what else can we do to save the day?
You're in good hands. Back straight, eyes forward. Back straight, eyes forward.
That took a lot of setup. took a lot of setup to get to that point. It doesn't really matter. I don't have to win against this private match. Just play to the end. Alright, so we have a Gamma Sutra article here. Ubisoft's massive head steps down. Will return in a new role at Ubisoft next year. Ubisoft Massive is a separate division of Ubisoft, I assume.
Your hypersonic gal is here.
Doesn't seem to highlight that there's any real controversy around here. Although it does seem like there's the beginnings of a reshuffle of employees at Ubisoft, and I don't know if it isn't a case that the CEO's son of Ubisoft is who have gone off to make their own company. I don't know if they are being assisted to steal a lot of talent that was the non-problematic talent, while getting rid of and leaving a shell of a corporation in the original Ubisoft. Considering all the controversy that's happened, you kind of can't even blame them for trying to pull off that kind of scheme. We are still going to have a lot of games like Fluffy Cubed here that are just box pushing Sokoban games. 62 cents is an odd price. Certainly.
This thing's more vicious than a nine-headed dragon.
And then we've got prologues, which I guess if it says prologue, we skip it. Here we have Agent Intercept. I think we had already kind of looked at this game. It seems like there's a lot going on this game. 1999, English full audio with several other languages. I think I have to put that on the follow list. Here we have one called Guns and Grapples, which looks like a platformer shooter. Seems like it's probably a bit too much of a frustration platformer for my taste. Early access, $12.59, English only. You got an angel wing character. Alright, is there anything I can do to survive this?
Zenith, for there I will rise.
Let's see. Unless I could have possibly taken out this character.
Embrace them in your fight. Prominence.
Like,
Finish the job.
yeah, unless I could have taken out that character in some way and then attacked, then maybe I could have won there. Meanwhile, as long as he can kill this character, he's won.
Though I set, I
Here we
will
have a game
rise
called
again.
Ricochet Bounce, which looks like a mobile phone low effort game. Here we have a game called Troop. I assume not to be confused with Trope. It seems like you play as a clown in some kind of Metroidvania game. The art looks a little weird, so I'm having a hard time judging whether it's good or not. Oh, yeah. I think there's something here you would want to try. $3.99, English only. I think that deserves a follow. Was that enough to get the daily quest done? Yes, it was. So now we can try and play some Runecraft instead. Or we can come over to this Grand Prix 5th Anniversary Cup. I guess we need to do this also. Runecraft not an option. So do we want to play Swordcraft or Shadowcraft or Forgecraft? I
Let
think
the
we've
games
tried
begin.
Forgecraft. We haven't played Forgecraft in a tournament in a while. Plus, we can... Well, I don't know what a lot of these cards do, so... Yggdrasil probably is better. So I'll take that. And then Fairy Assault is fairly good. So I'll take that. And then I'll take that. I'm just gonna pick based on cards I know. And I'm just gonna take another Yggdrasil. Then if I don't recognize any of these cards, I'm just gonna take the higher ranked cards. Feel like that's probably your best bet without spending a huge amount of time. I know this card, so I'll take that. I know this card, but do I want to do that or do I want to do that? I'm going to do that. Another Fairy Assault. Still probably not a bad idea. Goddess of Rebirth. We'll take that. Once, but not twice. Let's see. Take that one. Take those. We'll see how this goes. Here we have Incredible Dracula Legacy of the Valkyries, which looks like it's a resource management game. $5.59, English, German, and Russian. That's too expensive. Here we have a game called Adorable Witch, which is tagged as an adventurous dating sim game. To me, it looks like it's a low-effort physics game, a la the kinds of physics puzzles you see falsely advertised on YouTube a lot. Although, in all fairness, I guess they are at least trying to put something slightly more interesting to a specific audience there. But yeah, there's no polish there. That game is $1.79. They're saying it's similar to Honey Pop and Shadowverse, and I think both Honey Pop and Shadowverse are pretty distinctly different games, so that seems like you're just saying this game has an anime looking character, and that is a very generic comparison. Here we have a what looks like mobile game port called Legends of Heroes Eternal Arena, which, yeah, it looks like it's probably Chinese. Free to play, in-app purchases, English and Chinese. Let's see here. We have a game called Maybe I Can, which looks like nothing, like an asset flip game for $26.99. Third-party EULA, English, allegedly full audio. That is asking definitely a lot. Okay, what does this do? Here we have a game on Steam called Zombie Strike, which, frankly, this looks like a adult Nutaku style game. Like, it definitely feels like that's what it's trying to present itself as, is kind of one of these low effort mobile games that in the past I've seen sell themselves on having like models of naked or nearly naked characters, and there is an idea here as a kind of gacha character collector game, RPG in a zombie universe. They are throwing out a concept there as far as Amazonians fighting zombies. That's not something I've seen before. It has in-app purchases, allegedly full audio. Again, it claims to be free. Truth of the matter is, of course, it's not really free. Not in a reasonable sense as far as how far you could get in the game without spending actual money. Here we have a game called Gaozu the Rescue, which looks like it's an attempt at a mobile platformer, more kid-friendly. It looks like it may run a little rough, or it just has kind of floaty jump mechanics. It does also look like it's perhaps not a game that has any enemies in it, so it's just a collectathon, and that would be kind of boring from the looks of it. There's 8 coins seemingly in this demo before you free your friend. $4.49, English, Portuguese, Brazil. Yeah, well, I will applaud the visual polisher. It's just not enough. Just not enough gameplay there to justify that.
Did you like it?
And then let's go ahead and do this.
Let's play! Yeah!
Do that.
Sorry, I've got to take a break.
Interesting. Let's see. Here we have a game called Welcome to Lakewood,
Kindness, we've got
which
it all.
looks like it's an adventure game. Interesting. It's not really a game I had just immediately assumed was using the Unreal Engine for this kind of soft CG experience. 99 cents, English only. Is there anything here that makes this look good enough to give it a chance? Let's see if this developer's made anything else. No.
This will really bring out your eyes. Be gone. Stunning.
I
You
don't
look
know
perfect.
if I think there's anything here. I think that I would have to lean to no, there isn't enough here as far as the game. Harvest Forest. What is this? What does Harvest Forest do?
Equal before love.
At least 3 cards have been played. Draw a
The hunt has only begun.
card.
Love and riches. Let me love you. There's still a lot to come.
That. That. And that. We'll go ahead and put that on the field. And then in the turn. Actually, that card is kind of a great card, because the number one problem I have with Forestcraft decks is running out of cards and running out of steam. Here we have a game called 7 Years From Now. I saw one of the websites talk about this game. That doesn't inherently mean there's anything to it, though. Let's see. $7.99, bunch of languages. Slice of life story adventure game with 3D pixel art, as if that is a good selling point, particularly in a narrative, emotional type story. It's really hard to relate to characters that look like that. Fairy Wisp.
Rot and ravage, dear forest.
Right.
I am Higgs and name. Play.
I won't let you
Go
get
ahead and
away.
evolve that.
Grovel like the maggot you are.
Yeah, I think I say no to 7 years from now. Next, we have one called Fire EX Festival, which clearly is a joke troll game and looks like garbage. $9.99. It's tagged as an MMO, requires VR or uses VR. Next, we have Mysterious Block 2, which Mysterious Block 1 came out, I think, less than a month ago, and now it just feels like they're flooding Steam. English and Russian, $2.39. I'm gonna skip that. Next we have Elf Blade, which looks like an RPG game. Top-down RPG, $3.74. English full audio. Next we have Buck Boris in Action, which looks like it's a side shooting or side scrolling beat 'em up. 79 cents English only. Yep. I said there was a lot of games. I should have said there's a lot of games that look pretty bad, because that's the other truth of it, is that we are not accounting for quality here at all. Let's see. Gamma Sutra has a report that Sony's next-gen VR headset will use a Samsung OLED panel and launch in 2022. Gamma Sutra also says Facebook Gaming is introducing streamer fan groups to help foster communities, which, okay, that might work, but probably won't. Facebook is also starting testing of in-headset VR advertisements in video games, which that is the nightmare scenario where you wouldn't even be able to turn your head and not look at an advertisement. Gamma Sutra says the co-op adventure It Takes Two has sold 2 million copies in under 3 months. A big amount. Sony opens applications for the PlayStation 5 system software beta program. I don't know why you would want to sign up for that, though. You'd have to be particularly adventurous to want to do that. Hmm. 3 fills. What is a fill, though? Fills and the player can attack twice.
Wingless child, let the heavens be your shepherd.
Yeah. According to envisioncommunity.co.uk, a new Pokemon England futsal trading card is available at Game being the video game store.
Nice marksmanship.
And futsal, I think, is a kind of wink and a nod to soccer/football. But that's not really much news for anybody outside of England. I thought I did fairly well there. Didn't win, of course, but let's see. Envision also says experts reveal the future of cloud gaming. I really do feel like I barely got 4 or 5 articles today from Envision Co., which definitely might be just the way of things going. A game called RFM for PC and consoles launches in 2022.
My quarry won't escape that easy.
RFM to me, I think, stands for read the manual. I'll expletive deleted for the F. This looks like it's a Mega Man Battle.net type position placement strategy game. And it's definitely weird to announce a game for... Here's that article that I was talking about. Announce a game for something that has... Considering E3 just happened, I think it would make a lot of sense to wait on that and not not announce it the day after or a couple days after E3. Wait a week, wait till Monday of the next week at least, so that you might get a new news cycle. Apparently GeForce Now gets new service updates and 10 more games. GeForce Now is the GeForce game streaming service that I had pretty much forgotten existed. Let's see. The game Recompile, according to Gematsu, launches in August. Do we need to watch what Recompile is? I think I did, because I was thinking of a slightly different game. Yep. Looks like it might be a boss rush platforming style game from these trailers. Maybe.
So many colors of guidance.
Let's see. Tetris Effect Connected is coming to the PS4 and Epic Games Store, Steam, and Oculus Quest alongside cross-platform play in late July, according to Gematsu. Which that's nice and all. I wonder though if Tetris Effect can have a mode that is close enough to Tetris 99, or is Tetris 99 forever going to be this just abandoned idea that happened on the Nintendo online service before I think they abandoned it. I don't think it's still playable.
This way, you wouldn't.
Let's see. eBaseball Pro Baseball Spirits 2021 Grand Slam has a 7-minute trailer. I think we can skip watching that. That's coming out for the Switch, probably only in Japan on July 8th.
Stop it!
Nippon Ichi Software, or NIS Software, has announced a Yuri, that's girl-on-girl visual novel called Kochira Haha Naru Hoshi Yori for the PS4 and Switch. Yep, seems like there is a selection of girls, and you don't get that too often on the Yuri girl-on-girl dating romance visual novels. Usually it is one specific girl you're trying to date, and the character you're playing as is one specific girl. That being said, this really feels like this is just a collection of almost identical sisters. The hairstyles are different, but the colors are all the same. It's very, very similar art design on all the characters. I'd say one maybe is a little bit bustier than the others, and you have some slight variety there, but they are staying within a very similar range as far as butts. Japanese people tend not to have butts anyways, and so you're really not seeing a lot of that. You're not really seeing a lot of thigh differences. If there's eye color differences, it's hard to see for sure. There's maybe a little bit of height difference, but
Hey, let's play.
oops. Yeah. You see some height difference here in this sketch, and maybe a little bit difference when you're looking at them all face on and cleavage. Some of their clothing might indicate personality a little bit more, but you'd have to kind of make some assumptions there.
We
I would have to question whether this is a artist, whether the artist and the creator of this game is male or female, that has a specific type to the point where their specific type is hurting the sales of a game, and that's why you see in most dating games at least a fairly wide variety of characters, or character model designs. Alright. Do this.
I'll tear through your spirit and heart.
That. That. And this thing is just gonna get ranked up. That. And that. I can evolve that and kill it now,
The hunt has only begun.
which is probably the right move to do, which means I could have evolved that and saved that card if I'd played better. Let's see, the romantic mystery visual novel Otome Shoryo Yu no Shori Ryoki Ogon Shima no Mitsu Yaku has been announced for the PS4, Switch, PC, iOS, and Android. Which I think this is a new one. I don't think we've seen anything about that. Shin Megami Tensei 5 Daily Demon Volume 001 Jack Frost video. This seems like they're going to make a video about every single character in the Shin Megami Tensei universe, which that seems like that would take a while. Right. Six fairies in your hand, that will never happen. Reduce damage to 0. 2 damage to random enemy.
Wanted to take your life.
Go ahead and do. Select that card. Here we have a game on Steam called Murlo Above the Sun, which looks like it is potentially very polished as kind of a side-scrolling 2.5D game. It is from Digipen, so I think this is probably a student project, which probably means there's only a limited amount of experience here. But what I am seeing does look nice. And it is always nice to see when the students come out and make an actual successful looking game instead of in contrast to low effort games that don't seem like they're even made by students at all.
There you are, my little trespasser.
I surrender.
What an oath.
It's nice to see that education might actually be necessary and helpful as far as developing of video games. Next we have a game called Crystal Sequence, which seems like it's probably just that game Mastermind. Like, if that's what it is, yeah.
Usurp, pillage, and plunder. It
Let's
all
see,
ends
74
here.
cents, English only, single player,
Save you all.
but then a limited number of puzzles, 100
Nice
levels,
marksmanship.
which I don't know why you would have levels for a Mastermind clone when you could just randomize the puzzle, the code in Mastermind. So that doesn't really make any sense at all. So we can't make it to the fall list. Here we have one called Super Sunny Island, which looks very retro, but with a modern resolution. This is probably a great example of what a game trying to invoke the feeling of retro should look like. Nice polished edges, blocky when it's appropriate, but not so blocky when it isn't appropriate. It looks like there's a decent amount of enemies here. This also is kind of one of those games where it's probably simple enough that it would probably have been released on a Game Boy in previous decades. It's not a super complicated game, but it has enough complication that it feels like an actual game. Or at least it seems that way. There's a variety of collectibles and a variety of enemies, so they at least varied things up. So this is $3.99 English, Portuguese, Brazil, and that definitely deserves to go on the follow list. Then here we have Lost in Terra Mora, which obviously is just a dark screenshot, low effort horror game for $1.79. It supports a bunch of languages. Let's see, let's get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. Let's see. Metsu has a game called Oniriki, launching June 29th on Xbox One, Switch, and PC, and then shortly after on PS4. It's a 3D adventure platformer. Do we have a video of it? Let's see. It looks weird, but I don't know. Like, this might very well be kind of like Psychonauts, weird visuals, but decent game despite that. But yeah, this definitely looks weird. This would totally be one game that I would have to choose to see some reviews before I did anything else. Let's see. Pokemon Unite launches for July for Switch and September for iOS and Android. This is Unite. What is a Unite? That is a good question. Something that has crossplay. Is it like the Pokemon fighting each other? Like a Pokemon arena? Or is it a different play style completely? Well, I see. It seems like you play as the Pokemon. It seems like it's a more fast-paced beat-em-up experience, and so it's not the RPG turn-based experience of Pokemon. Yep. I don't know if there's much else that can be taken from it.
So many colors of guidance.
Doesn't look terrible. Gemetsu has Tales of Arise with a hands-on preview, gameplay, and screenshots. This is probably more of a standard Japanese fantasy RPG. There's a lot of videos here, but I think on this case I probably don't want to watch too much of any of them, because yeah, it looks very much like standard fare for these types of games. Visuals don't look particularly interesting, and the character designs don't look particularly interesting. So.
This way.
You're my prey.
I shall
Now
not
act like
leave.
it.
Rude.
A game called Boomerang X launches July 8th. It's a first-person boomerang hack-and-slash game. Looks like it would be a VR game. The idea of throwing a boomerang in VR might work. Or the game, even if it's not in VR, throwing around a boomerang might work. It does kind of have this
I can take you no further.
different architectural design. Seems like you just flipped the entire world upside down. Some weird creatures. I guess the real question would come down to how much of this game is actually a game, as Devolver Digital is publishing it, which honestly, Devolver Digital being the publisher makes for a bad statement, not a good statement.
The hunt has only begun.
To quality.
Grovel like the maggot you are.
Now
A plague
we have
upon
rush and +1 attack. Here we have a game on Steam called Frosty Jumper, which looks like a low effort Frogger clone. $1.99 English only. Here we have a game called A Circle Among Squares, which looks like nothing. English only. Here we have a game called Valor and Victory, which looks like it's a
Guns speak.
tabletop
You just gotta
dice game. And the fact that it's mixed reviewed with 12 reviews already implies to me this is probably based on a real world board game, and like so many conversions from real world board games, they're done pretty terribly. Third party account, third party EULA, that is a lot to ask. Let's see. Game really needs help and polishes, says one of the reviews. Yep. As what I expected to hear. Okay, let's do this.
Cyclones, devour the land.
Load.
And do this.
Let's play.
Next, we have a game on Steam called Belle de Nuit.
Wake up.
I suppose that's how you pronounce that. Looks like this is a full text game. $2.99 English only. Definitely not the kinds of games I would want to play. Next, we have a game called Rogue Book, which looks like a card-based RPG with maybe some tile placement, movement on top of that. It's mostly positive. $24.99 English full audio. Is this deluxe edition, but I don't know if the deluxe edition gets you anything more than the art book and the soundtrack. It looks like it maybe gets you the Apex Predator pack. This is one of those games I'll put on the fall list, but probably never do anything with. Go ahead and do that. And then can't really put that on the field.
Wingless child, let the heavens be your shepherd.
I won't let you get away.
The time is upon us. The righteous path.
If I could play this and this, then that would be pretty impactful. Here we have a game called Railroad Ink Challenge, which looks like it's a tile placement strategy game. There might be something to this. It looks fairly complicated. $6.79, bunch of languages. I'll give this a chance. Put it on the follow list. But I could also see it to be fairly boring. More than likely, I suppose it is worth me pointing this out. This is just that game Carcassonne with the tiles, with the roads, the rivers, and the different types of buildings. They've just taken that general idea and expanded it.
You buzzing, flitting insects.
yourself useful. Make yourself useful.
Let's see. This and this. And then bring that back. Although probably should have brought that back, come to think of it.
This is the end.
Pretty bold for a bunch of bugs. Let me hear you scream.
Let's see. Next we have a game called Police Simulation Patrol Officers. There's definitely a socio-political problem these days with playing a game where you're simulating a police officer. This is early access 2249, English and German full audio, third party EULA. See if any of these thumbnails want to load or not. I feel like maybe what slows down these thumbnails from loading is the fact that there are so many videos for ahead of point. It feels like you'd be doing the very mundane, boring stuff that occurs as a police officer's job, which even that doesn't, I think, really fix the issues with the game. That being said, this does seem to be a somewhat visually polished game. It's not AAA quality graphics or anything, so I'll give this a follow. We'll see if we can get some real reviews on it. See if there's actually an experience there worth playing. Here we have a game called Virtuous Western, which that sounds like an oxymoron. Let's see. Seems like you have a limited number of bullets, and so you're trying to trick them into blowing themselves up or otherwise. So it's kind of a puzzle game. $1.39, English only. This is one of those ones where I would need reviews and I would need to know how many levels there really are, or if it's randomly generated as far as the levels. Because if there's only like 50, that's one thing. If there's 150, that's a different thing. Here we have a game on Steam called Summertime Madness, which is tagged as a surreal puzzle exploration game that's atmospheric, and it definitely seems to hold up to that. Kind of feels like a Myst-like game. At least that's what I would hope it to be. $11.04, Italian and English full on you. That deserves a follow list. I don't think we're gonna do as good of a job as I probably would like to clean up the follow list at this rate. It seems like I'm adding more, and I haven't gotten to a follow list cleanup in probably a couple of weeks, so it's not like I've gotten rid of anything from the follow list. And it certainly has been noticed that Chrome feels a little bit more sluggish in the fact that I have hundreds of tabs from Steam open for games that were on the follow list to check out and see if they should stay on the follow list or not.
So many colors of guidance.
Let's see. Here we have a game on Steam called 16-Bit versus Reality,
The resplendent
which
Phoenix graces you with her presence.
looks like a platformer of some polish. Again, it feels like one of those games that it looks like it's kind of UI is designed more for a Game Boy style game if it came out several decades ago, but it has color and has polish to it. It's 1169 with a bunch of languages, so that deserves a chance, I think. Last words and first words to draw a card.
This way.
Hit that. Gamma Sutra has an article. Apparently Disney is interested in indie devs using its IP, which, okay, Disney needs to do something with its IP for sure. Otherwise it's dooming itself with a slow death. Save this. Play this.
Hey, let's play. Yeah.
That. And that.
This way.
Gamma Sutra has an article. Bethesda's Pete Hines is sorry for Starfield exclusivity, but notes it streamlines the development. Which, yeah, you can pretty much just expect everything from Bethesda to be a semi-exclusive the way Xbox does them, in the sense that it's an exclusive to PC and Xbox platforms.
All are equal before love.
In all fairness, there is an argument to be made that Microsoft has been fairly inconsistent with the exclusivity issues, if you include PC, because they've kind of opened up more and more of their games to be on Steam. They only seem to really be slightly upset with PlayStation as far as exclusivity, and that might be very much PlayStation's fault from the sounds of it. They seem to be fairly okay with putting games on the Switch. Now, the problem with a lot of the Bethesda games in particular is that they were going to have a hard time being on the Switch regardless, so and pretty much any new game is going to have a hard time being on the Switch. So it's, again, a little less surprising that you would have exclusivity in that case. Let's see.
So many colors of guidance.
Guess we want to wisp in a fair in our hand.
Guidance breathes through you. This way.
Let's see. The biggest news story, I think, so in the past couple days has been the Five Nights at Friday's creator has announced he was retiring following a political donation controversy. This is the Mora SJWS Gamma Sutra article. Kind of spinning it, kind of not. Because it seems to me like it's not just a controversy. It seems to me very much the mainstream video game media definitely danced on the grave of the creator when he announced his retirement, and he was definitely being doxxed by somebody for contributing to Trump and Mitch McConnell. So having the wrong opinion, even, which that definitely should have never been a thing, in my opinion. Like, it gets back to like the Ender's Game Orson Scott Card issue again, and certainly there are smarter people who are more conservative or Republican leaning in the United States that have created something and have secretly donated to political sides. And certainly if you flip it the other way, I don't think there has ever been a single video game creator or creative person at all that has been doxxed or harassed or
Erase your denial.
or even had articles written about him if they donated to the Democrats of the United States. So yeah, this is once again one of those examples where this is what happens when politics is allowed into an entertainment form in video games, and it's why it is so important for there to try to be best efforts on every side to not have politics be talked about in video games, and this is Game of Sutra kind of failing at that again, certainly is so yeah.
Be cast into the void beyond.
So he's gonna hand it off to
I need more cuddles.
hand off the Five Nights at Freddy's series to some unnamed successor in the future. He was doxxed, his wife was harassed, he was harassed. Particularly no reason why this seems to happen now. Let's see. Yeah, you can say he's a Republican, a Christian, a pro-life, and I believe in God. I would argue that Christians would say you should say you're a Christian first. Arguably, you should say I believe in God first, too. It does highlight his perspective that he starts as a Republican, and then he's a Christian, and then he's pro-life, and then he believes in God. Yeah, but yeah. From what I hear, Patrick Klepek, formerly of Giant Bomb, definitely went heavy there against him and wrote kind of a hit piece, it sounds like, on him. But yeah, this definitely, in my opinion, should never been a story. There never should have been any kind of controversy at all.
Bow beneath my wings.
Like, yeah, I don't know how to say it any more succinctly than that. Like, it is a failure of the video game journalism in whole that this was ever a story, that this was ever talked about. It is a failure of society and the whole that people are doxing him or harassing him. It is, in my mind, in my opinion, 100% connected. That the mainstream video game journalists intentionally wrote about him to make him a target and to harass him. The Associated Press put out an interesting announcement, somewhat related to this, in that they are no longer going to they are no longer going to name anybody in small crimes. Like, if somebody, say, gets drunk and runs over a mailbox, I guess that's a particularly small crime. But they are no longer going to name those people because they have known for a long time, and they are now saying it out loud, that there is a considerably long tail on writing an article about someone that follows them for the rest of their lives. So a 19-year-old gets robs a gas station or joyrides or something like that. They get named in these articles. It follows them for the rest of their lives. They have trouble getting jobs. They have trouble. They get harassed. Things come up. It's not to the benefit of society for these people to be named. There's a lot of scenarios where people are arrested and they're completely innocent and they're named. People are not even arrested, and yet they're named, and it is written in such a way that it makes it seem like they're a criminal. Like, privacy in Europe has been taken a lot more seriously, and I think the Associated Press is making a step closer in that direction, where we are, and I think that is a good thing. I think that is the way things should have been in the first place.
To help you.
I won't let you get away.
Let's go together, all right? There.
And as far as that, how that connects to video game journalism, yeah, there's no reason why you would be talking about how any game developer is spending their money at all. It's like people were willing to give the money to the creators. They bought the game. They made a sale and trade. There's really nothing more to it after that. Or there should be nothing more to it than after that. I don't think this saves me. Let's see. Oh, so now this one can attack twice, which I don't think that saves me.
To my genesis, I return.
Nope, that didn't save me.
Nice marksmanship.
Let's see, Envision Community has battle bands coming this year to Steam Early Access. Let's see what this is. Looks like it has kind of a interesting kind of marker animation style. Seems like it's a card-based game. I'm not sure that I particularly would be able to play a game that was a card-based game about people battling of bands and garage bands. It seems like that you're narrowing your scope quite a bit there as far as what kinds of cards you could create. It would make sense. A Dying Light 2 Stay Human contest has been announced for cosplaying, writing, and artwork, so they're trying to build up some hype, or slightly more hype.
You must die.
For Dying Light 2, which it's almost like they go in circles that way, because they tried to tamp down the hype for Dying Light 2 because they were delayed. Now they're trying to build it back up. Here we have a game on Steam called Switch It, which looks like just a polygonal frustration platformer, 59 cents English only. Here we have a game called Balloon Jump, which looks like a slightly better animated frustration platformer for $1.59 English only. Here we have Red Solstice 2 Survivors, which is already mixed. So somebody really didn't polish this product enough. $26.99 English full audio. Yeah, with that many reviews and it being mixed, there's really no reason to put that on the follow list. That can be skipped. Here we have a game called Witchhaven, which looks like it is a Doom/Quake clone. I don't think I could play any of those though. $6.39. And what's funny is Witchhaven is being listed here, but we also see a Witchhaven 2, which also seems to have come out pretty much the same time. Here we have a game on Steam called Detective from the Crypt, which is tagged as an adventure point-and-click game. Seems like you play as a ghost. there might be some interest there, and I am a sucker for point-and-click adventures. English and Russian, $5.59. We'll put that on the follow list. We more than likely are going to end up losing 5 times in a row here for this tournament. Here we have one called No School, No Rules, which this definitely seems like this is probably more of a troll game than anything else. Yeah, you would have to have a very careful amount of tact to potentially have a school where kids are running around and fighting people. And mostly it seems like you're just wandering around a flipped asset. $1.99, English, Russian only.
This song's for you.
Yeah. I would say even the Yandere simulator, if that ever got finished, is going to have trouble with its tact as far as people actually trying to review it, in that it is a pretty tactless concept of having an obsessed school girl killing people in massive amounts. Even, I would say, Hitman has to work fairly hard to avoid that by having Hitman be kind of a silent protagonist.
You wouldn't. Hey, I do the
Interesting.
digging around here.
That worked. There's a lot of cards to destroy a 2/2 character, though. Yep. The cold clinical nature of Agent 47 in Hitman, I think, definitely plays to an advantage. Okay. Do this.
And those acorns flying out of the woods.
And this.
There's a chance for a grand slam.
The hunt has
Do
only
this.
begun.
First MVP. Hey, let's play. There's a chance for a grand slam.
And then do this.
Seek what is not there.
Home run! Home run!
Next, we have a game on Steam called Larsonauts, which looks like it's probably a player versus player game of no real interest. You can see it's mostly negative. Interestingly, it's a VR game. I wouldn't have thought of that. $29.99, English only. Here we have a game called Eternal Starlight, which looks like a space game. Might be something to this.
You look about as
Is
tough as
VR
a bear,
$19.99, English full audio. Kind of want to give this a follow just to see the reviews on it. Here we have a game called Sports Paradise VR, which seems to have archery and boxing.
You are done for.
And seems to be nothing else than that.
Stop it.
Let's see, VR $8.99, English full audio. I feel like there's probably been better archery games for VR that we've already put on the follow list, so I think I have to skip this one. Yeah. Draw a card. Do that. So we'll go hit that. Kill that. And then we'll attack there. Next, we have a game called Kittens and Yarn, which this is a very cutesy way to depict and make what is a fairly simplistic game that exists in real world format.
Stop it.
Maybe the isometric angle here is a bit of a waste of space,
It won't be
but
long now.
There's no
I
time
think
for
it
you
kind of
slugs.
works. And there's just a lot of visual polish for what is a very basic game. $1.39 English, Portuguese, Brazil. The only thing that would scare me away from this is the number of levels, and doesn't seem like they're saying a specific number of levels, so maybe it just randomizes. So I'm gonna put this on the fall list. I think, like, we can see it's already 100% positive. We may have found a real winner today in Kittens and Yarn, which that was definitely not what I was expecting. If I did this after doing this, is there something more I could do?
All are equal
Put that on the
before
field.
love.
Put that on the field. Do I want to wait a turn, or? Yeah, I pretty much have to anyways.
I'm here, everyone.
I won't let you get away.
Love and let me love you.
Should have been quicker.
Let's see. Gemetsu has an article here. Chris Tales opening cinematic is now available.
Please
So
love
let's
me.
check this out. This is tagged as an RPG
Nice
game.
marksmanship.
Of course, the opening cinematic doesn't really tell you much about what the actual game is. It is a unique art style. Very sharp edges on the characters. Very bright, colorful designs. Although I heavily suspect the actual game looks very much not like that. I guess we are back to seeing 3 or 4 different cases in a lot of these advertisements too, since this is coming out for basically everything. It's coming out for the Xbox One and Series, but they only had one Xbox advertisement or case shown, which I suspect maybe Microsoft themselves has said to do it that way. And that didn't get us anywhere as far as our daily quest. Now they said there was a limited time story mode, which is not this. So either the limited time story mode happens after June 28th, or there's some kind of other thing. It says limited time stories. Seeds of conflict sowing, the Guild War reconstruction. What's eating Ladika? Interesting. Let's check this out and just skip it and see if there's actually any games here. Are they just squeezing in story in such a way that they're catching up some forgotten elements or dangling plot threads? Because this seems to be taking place after the the latest story in which the entire group was all together. It's just like 4 pieces of story with no fights. Interesting. And then this seems to be take the events after a much earlier point in the story, or maybe this is taking place in well before the story occurred. I don't understand why, though, you would have this set up, the story not just be integrated into the older chapters. It's like, are they just trying to flesh out the story because this is something that happens in the cartoon, or gets told in the cartoon a little bit better? Are they just fleshing out the story because then the dialogue had already been written? I don't know why you'd even bother to write this dialogue, though. Seems like this is just a complete waste of time. Yeah. Why in the world would you not just put this as an extra main story section? Unless they are supposed to be kind of joke stories. I didn't really look at any of it. But yeah, it would seem like you would have had that first story in chapter 9, and then the second story somewhere around Guild War conclusion. And really no reward at all for looking at that. We are registered, so we do need to play whatever you need to play every single day to try and win a massive amount of rupees. That being said, even if I had a massive amount of rupees, I don't know if 500,000 doesn't just get me the next expansion and put me in a decent place because of that, or if it gives me enough to have at least one of every card, and then at some point start to consider getting more cards, more than one copy of every card. Like, there's a potential 500,000 would be 5,000 packs of, and so yeah, there's definitely an argument to just buying a bunch of the old cards to try and fill in those gaps, but it might just be easier to buy the new ones if you were to win, which is a big if, and I definitely don't think would actually happen. So we're supposed to be playing Runecraft. Theoretically, I think I could play unranked Runecraft, but we'll try a little bit. So I think this is Runecraft. Yeah, Runecraft. Gamatsu has Suna's Saga, Hellblade 2, a saga in the making, developer diary. If you're interested in looking at that, that's probably going to have some spoilers in it. And they have Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1, Sherlock's Many Faces gameplay trailer, which this is the kind of reboot of a younger Sherlock Holmes, which he's not kind of a face of Sherlock Holmes I would expect to see, but in all honesty, Sherlock Holmes could look like anybody. He's barely described in the books. I think he is slightly described, but in the minds of people, he's been played in so many different formats and media that it doesn't really matter. It seems like he has almost like an Assassin's Creed scanning ability, or I don't know if you would even call it an Assassin's Creed Assassin's Creed scanning ability as much as you might call it a Watchdog scanning ability.
I'll get production up and running.
Yeah, this trailer definitely inspires a little bit more confidence. It's still been fairly consistent that the Sherlock Holmes games have been somewhat boring, so I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't really play that well or get received well, even if it does play well. Gematsu has NIS America going to host the Falcom 40th anniversary live stream on the 24th, which, let's see, maybe there will be some games announced, maybe there won't.
I'm so useless.
A Plague Tale Innocence is coming to the PS5, Xbox Series, and Switch on July 6th. Switch version is cloud only.
You don't find gizmos like this every millennium.
Since I have been looking at Switch games lately, I will say that the selection of Switch games that are particularly kid-friendly feels a little lower than what you would have had for Wii games. It definitely feels like they have shifted focus and allowed a lot more teen and mature games. But I would also say the Switch selection just kind of feels small in general, particularly when you start eliminating the garbage games that aren't worth even mentioning. Gematsu has Lost in Random story trailer, which I haven't heard of this game, so this was apparently an EA game that either got announced at E3 or has been announced days after E3. So they're rolling a dice, and this giant dice has apparently caused this girl to be kidnapped. Interesting. So it's just a world with all kinds of dice all over the place. And she's going to be befriending this anthropomorphic dice character. It kind of has a Nightmare Before Christmas feel to it. There might be something interesting there. Of course, it's very possible that it doesn't have anything interesting there, and the story is just boring.
The ordained hour has arrived.
Open your ears. Justice himself is speaking.
Let's see.
You might die from this.
What? Impossible!
Let's see. A first-person shooter roguelike game called RoboQuest has been announced for Xbox Series, Xbox One, and PC. Do we have a bit of a trailer here? Just to get a general idea. I'll also say Amazon does seem to kind of have some problems as far as listing games that are PEGI rated versus ESRB rated, so like it seems a little too easy to accidentally buy the UK version of a game. I don't know if that really matters. I don't know if there's any real region locking in that case, but I would be careful around that idea, certainly.
Colts has come in every shade imaginable.
Let's see. Gematsu has the Famitsu sales updated. So yeah, Game Builder Garage, I saw some gameplay of that. It looks fine, perhaps not as educational or open-ended as I might want it to be, but it probably is fine, and clearly it's selling well. Then we have Final Fantasy Remake Integrate and Ratchet & Clank holding the second place for PS5 in particular, which is interesting. And then you're at Miitopia and Ring Fit Adventure still selling very well. Ninja Gaiden Master Collection for PS4, Monster Hunter Rise, then Guilty Gear. So we're starting to see real competition in the top 10 list as far as Switch games. And then rounding it out, you have like Minecraft and the, I think, Railroad game. And then you're getting down to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and 3D World and Bowser's Fury, Smash Brothers, Ninja Gaiden. I didn't even know that was on the Switch. Animal Crossing New Horizons, Mario Party, Pokemon Snap. Pokemon kind of doing pretty bad this week. Splatoon 2, Clubhouse Games 51 still selling well. Jack Chan and Village. Is Village on Switch? I don't think it is. Sword and Shield's not doing particularly well. Breath of the Wild kind of not doing so well now. Hardware sales, we still get the Switch is still trouncing the PlayStation 5, and they're all still trouncing the Xbox Series S, but the 2DS LL is seemingly almost completely eliminated as a option. So
Blessed is the promised day.
yeah, we are on the last gasps as far as the new 2DS XL, and I think PlayStation 4 will probably still hang on for a couple more months just because of the shortage of PlayStation 5. But the Series X is outselling the PlayStation 4 by nearly double, which, yeah, that's a big adaptation for the Japanese market. Gamatsu has the Shinran Ninja Taisen Neptune Sojo Taichi no Kyoin second trailer. This is the crossover between Senran Kagura and Neptunia characters, which we're still trying to figure out. Is this going more with the kind of lewd ninja girls and Senran Kagura and that feeling, or is it going with the more sort of cutesy Neptunia characters? Because there's a balance that will have to be struck, and I think they're almost going directly in the middle there. I think the gameplay is going to be slightly more wholesome, but then the outfits of the characters, particularly which characters you pick, are going a little bit more lewd. There is definitely a question as far as the gameplay mechanics. Here it seems like there's a meditation mechanic on a bouncing ball with a anime girl in their underwear. The question, will it have destructible clothes, is also a consideration to think about, because if it doesn't have that, then you're going to be closer to the Neptunia games than the Senran Kagura games.
At last I will be anointed.
I always catch the varmint. Eventually.
Let's see. Envision Community.co.uk has Plague Tale Innocence is getting a 4K UHD visuals on Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5.
Man, son of a gun, ain't ya?
event called TinnoCon has been scheduled. Never heard of TinnoCon before. I don't recognize any of these games either. There's a Warframe game, and so Warframe's a name I recognize. Is that all that TinnoCon is Warframe type games? Seems like it might be. This might be a European event that has not caught my attention up until this point because it is too specific. Let's see. Vision has Pokemon trading card game Sword and Shield Chilling Rain expansion has been released. Okay, so more Pokemon cards.
Enhance. Fire.
See that we don't need to talk about that. Naraka Blade Point second beta is now live according to Envision community. According to Gamma Sutra, Nintendo's boss says expanding demographics key to post-pandemic Switch sales, which, I mean, I don't know what more demographics Nintendo can really expand. They've, I think, captured as high a percentage of every demographic that they could possibly capture. It's unlikely you're going to convince like 80-year-old grandmas to play the Switch. It's unlikely you're going to get more of the 40 and 50-year-olds who are gamers to move from PC or Xbox or PlayStation to Switch. It's unlikely you're going to get people who don't game in any demographic to move to Switch. If they didn't start playing games during the pandemic, they're probably never going to start playing video games. That would have been the time people would have had free time.
Gizmos like this every millennium.
So, like, the only thing I could think is maybe they should skew younger. Go for very early childhood games. But I doubt that's what they're thinking. It kind of feels like they are
Son of a gun, ain't ya?
just hoping that more people magically appear, that more babies are made very quickly, and I don't think that there's any truth to that happening. Let's see. They want to include more female players. I will say, having just looked at like kids games, if you are to generally assume that a Mario game, any game with Mario is a boys game, and you are to specifically look at the Nintendo games made by Nintendo, there is definitely a point that there's nothing there specifically targeting girls. And nobody is really bucking that trend as far as third-party game developers either. There is definitely a lack of good girl-focused games. But what Nintendo would have to do there is they would have to make a game where you play as Peach or one of the other princesses, or a new female character, and really push that and promote that. And Samus Aran was a major female character, even though they really never show her face or make it obvious that she's a female, and they're failing to make that game. So the idea that they could just very quickly come out with a more female-focused, kid-friendly game is not something I'd hold my breath for. I would say Splatoon, in a lot of ways, has strong female characters, and but it still is very boy friendly. I would say also, if you take away the premise that a Mario game is a Mario game just because Mario's in the name, Super Mario Land, you can play as the princess and one of the Toadettes, and that there are female characters in the multiplayer Mario games that you can play as. I think Animal Crossing could definitely be implied to be slightly more attractive to the female audience, but I'm not sure you would inherently just say Animal Crossing is a female-centric or female-focused game just because females like it. And that's kind of the danger that you get into, is that just because girls like it doesn't mean that it's actually boys don't like it also. And I guess at a certain point you could make the argument that they should try to make all their games attractive to all the players.
Did I overreach myself?
Big trouble now.
Here Gamma Sutra is making a translation / yellow journalism of, this is the wrong way definitely to write this. First of all, brief language note is condensation. It's rude. It's inappropriate for an article. At best, you would say, The Verge describes the near future of Switch sales as being, quote, post-pandemic. Not though The Verge, meaning that, I mean, really, you just don't say this at all. This is you making yourself part of the news story and not reporting. This is just bad. Because all they're really coming out here is being a little bit preachy and saying the global COVID-19 pandemic remains in progress even as vaccines are administered and deaths drop in countries like the United States. And there's nothing false in my mind about this statement. It's just not necessary. And once again, unfortunately, the pandemic has been politicized, but once again, it's just not news you need to report on. Yeah, they are definitely coming from the perspective of Animal Crossing New Horizons, bringing in a lot of female viewers. But let's also think about the history of Nintendo and how they failed in a lot of places and lost their core audience. The one thing that the Wii did was bring in a bunch of random new players to games who bought Wiis and played Wii Bowling and then never played anything else. So going down that route again and saying, oh, in the middle of a pandemic, a bunch of female audiences played Animal Crossing New Horizon, we're going to make a lot more games like that. That failed for the Wii, and it will fail for the Switch just as easily. They should, they need to try and convert new players to the old style of games that they know how to make and have already made a bunch of, not try and convert their entire focus to this new flippant audience that will disappear as soon as they're done with Animal Crossing New Horizon. And certainly the Wii had more of the Wii nunchuck and waggle concept, although those still are concepts for the Switch. And that hindered any opportunities to try and put regular games on the Wii in a lot of cases. It didn't stop those games from coming to the Wii, but it hindered them more than it helped. you had a few exclusions to that idea. Like Resident Evil 4 with the Wiimote was fairly successful.
The world called, and I answered.
There were a couple of games that were interesting because of the Wiimote features, but the vast majority of people kind of ignored what the Wiimote could do and just tried to port their game to it. Monster Hunter Rise apparently is also pushing Bowser of Nintendo of America, and part of the problem here with this article that should be pointed out too is this is an article, an interview with Bowser, the CEO of Nintendo of America, who basically has no authority whatsoever and is just a localization company for Nintendo of Japan. So whatever he says is really just him giving lip service to what he thinks people wants to hear. But yeah, Monster Hunter Rise and online play might maybe push Nintendo of Japan to embrace the online aspect a little bit more. I wouldn't be surprised if it really doesn't, though. Let's see. Let's go ahead and place this.
Nothing stops me once I got my speedy boots on.
And then in the turn. Moving on, Gamma Sutra has an article. Among Us developer Innersloth talks about the human cost of overnight success. I suppose that almost feels like a pity party. It's like, oh, we're so successful. Like, tell that to all the people who weren't successful. Whiners. And that's immediately what I get from that headline. It's like, that is not something I want to hear or hear anyone say. That is just pathetic. And honestly, the article could be completely different from what I think it is. And yet. The headline pushes me to that initial knee-jerk reaction. Let's see, Envision community has hoods and outlaws. Hood Outlaws and Legends launching a new mountain heist free for all players. Is this game even out yet? I thought this game was still coming out. I'm very confused there. I was sworn that that game is not out yet.
Try calculations set. Ready to summon.
The ordained hour has arrived.
I always catch the varmint. Eventually.
Okay. To this.
Rapid fire.
To this.
A fitting end.
To this.
Rapid fire.
Adorable to the end.
Justice
Attack
miles
here.
away.
Attack here. In return. Apparently an Alan Wake remaster is coming to the Epic Games Store. We'll talk about that more in a second. Gamma Sutra has a blog, Don't Buy Steam Games for Me, Argentina. Let's see.
Mean son of a gun, ain't ya?
Which, I don't know what the real point here is. As far as this article, it seems like it's complaining that people in Argentina are buying too many games on Steam sales, or that people are using VPNs to buy games in Argentina because the price is is cheaper. Which either way does not really matter to me at all. Let's see.
Feel impressed the sheer boom of infinity.
Let's see. I'm gonna lose this impalement art, but I don't think that really matters. Let's see. Gamester chose an article. The Amazon App Store has reduced its revenue cut to 20% for devs under 1 million. Honestly, I don't think anybody really cares about businesses that make less than 1 million. The rev cut could be 0 practically, and it wouldn't really matter to anybody. Let's see. Well, do that, and then we'll go ahead and attack with that, and we'll go ahead and hit with that. Yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen.
A glimpse into the future is only the beginning.
Running out of cards. Already talked about that. Yeah. Here we have Gamatsu. Epic Game Store database lists Final Fantasy VII Remake and Alan Wake Remastered. The remastered on Alan Wake could be not much. It's totally possible that it's going to be a surface level remaster compared to like a full remake of anything, or of anything of major interest. And since I didn't really like the first Alan Wake, it's not really expecting that I'd want to play the next Alan Wake. Gamatsu has the Kligo Effect 2 8-minute gameplay trailer, which probably could have skipped this, but I did want to kind of see where we're going with the Kligo Effect 2, as far as what kind of game it is. It does kind of feel like it is a kind of higher action, faster paced Persona type game. Seems to be less about taking turns, where the RPG in Persona seem to be, I think, a bit slower. Of course, if I was going to play the Caligula Effect 2, then I would probably want to play the first game. So that might be a consideration also. Cost 6. 2. If I just wait one more time, I'll kill everything. So instead do that. And I guess you evolve that.
Blessed is the promised day.
My bolts are too fast. I'll fry you to
Hit
a
that.
A fitting end.
Hit that. Hit that.
Yeah, I love this job. Of course I
In
do.
return. See. They also have the Shin Megami Tensei Daily Demon number 2 out now. So I won't bother to open every single article about that. Let's see. Here's an odd blog. Patching conversations to pin the blame.
I've seen them.
So that's to do with Overboard.
Good luck.
So seems like they're updating the conversations in Overboard. I guess that's what they're doing. I guess I just don't care about it enough to go any further past that thought. Okay. Play this.
Ready to
Spell
summon.
boost that. Attack here. In the turn. Yeah, we definitely have a situation here where a lot of the news articles here are pretty dull today. And I'm not particularly interested in. Gematsu has R-Type Final 2 2021 updates roadmap announced. Check that out if you're interested. This probably is the second most important news story today. Some Switch owners have been unable to download software for about a week. Seems like there's some kind of weird firmware / web browser cache issue. It seems to be an issue for sure that's happening to a lot of people. More than what I would just assume would be people who tried to hack their Switch and they've changed something. I wouldn't be surprised if it is just a bad database issue that Nintendo has just chosen to selectively not confirm or talk about. Seriously?
This is how you cast.
Yeah, and that certainly is scary to potentially be buying a Switch in less than a couple days and have news stories coming out telling you, oh yeah, there's major download issues. Probably wouldn't really affect me though, because I don't think I'll be doing the online stuff anyways. Not getting anywhere very fast with this, which is typical. Gamma Sutra says the relaunched Xbox Design Lab will let you unleash your inner artisan, so you can once again make custom colored molded pieces for Xbox One. I think these are Pro controllers. At a certain point I kind of have to question why you need to go through a website to get different colors though, or why it wouldn't be just the default thing you could do yourself.
I bring unto you serenity.
I would potentially like to see the shell of a next generation of Xbox and PlayStation controller easily removed and replaced, and also when you take it off there's a level of cleaning that one could do and is encouraged to do. I can't help but assume that at least a small part of Joy-Con drift and problems with controllers is the fact that the controllers are just dirty. Plus, if you are building these devices with the idea of maintenance and repair in the first place, then it might be very much easier to ship a new control stick to somebody than have them ship their entire controller somewhere to be replaced. Let's see.
I'm so useless.
Let's see. Gamma Sutra has a crafting the life-altering divergent narrative of Across the Grooves, which I don't recognize this game. I don't think I've seen it. Looks interesting. Might very well just be kind of a visual novel or point-and-click adventure game. It probably isn't out yet, if I was to guess. Seems like music probably plays a decent role. Maybe this art style will get fairly boring fairly quickly. Yeah, that is probably one of those games where I would feel the needs to confirm first and foremost whether there is a high number of positive reviews. Let's see. Let's see, weirdly, that puts me in a kind of unique position because we are already sort of done with the news.
A glimpse into the future is only the beginning.
So what I would like to do is I've been skipping over some games on Steam, and I'm going to try and go through sort of the bad ones. I'm going to try and highlight the adult ones, and so I'm kind of curating on that, and I'm leaving some for Monday. Although we may just go through everything. That way we can then move over to the fall list cleanup, which is much more useful. So if we have a game here like Hidden Shapes Old West jigsaw puzzle game, this doesn't even really look like a jigsaw puzzle game to me. $1.19, bunch of languages. We're gonna try and burn through that very fast. Here we have a game called War Mines, which is a Minesweeper game with maybe some visual polish to it, but you don't really need that for Minesweeper. $1.39, English only. I think we may just burn through all the articles because it'll take me the same amount of time to do that than it would to do anything different. But do this. Then I can do this. And then
The ordained hour.
go ahead and evolve here. See, here we have a game called Panquisha and Pakoshka, a friendship jigsaw. It feels like it's trying to put some kind of storyline around a jigsaw puzzle, but that's not gonna convince me. It's $1.19, English, Portuguese, Brazil.
Begin.
Next we have a game called Pill Puzzle, which
The design fault lies
Yeah.
with you.
doesn't look like much of a puzzle game. But I might give it a chance. 69 cents, English only. How many puzzles does it have? 60 levels, that's pretty low. I think we can skip that. I don't know why you'd specifically make a pill themed puzzle game anyways. That also seems weird. Let's see. We need play, I think,
Nothing
this.
stops me once I got my speedy boots on.
So then we can do this. So then we can do this.
Gun? Not when I have no words.
And then that can evolve
Blessed is the promised day.
to the highest.
Open your ears. Justice himself. You might die from this.
Such a good guinea pig.
Go ahead and attack there. Here we have a game called Kataro, which seems like it's a snot-nosed baby in a platforming game looking for secret collectibles. $1.79. Yeah, nothing there of interest. Here we have a game called Shadow Nest, which looks like an asset flip horror game. Free to play, English only.
The blues away.
Here we have Amaron's Legacy,
Sleep.
which looks like it's just an RPG game.
Tools of the ancients, show yourself.
$8.09, English only.
Man,
Casual
son of a
nudity,
gun, ain't
apparently,
ya?
crude humor, alcohol use. Next we have Soko Match Lizard Saga, which is just a match 3 game for $1.39, English only. Sure doesn't feel like my smooth scrolling is working as well as I'd like it to. I haven't gotten back and tried to work on that anymore though. I've already got too many other things I need to work on to bother with smooth scrolling. Right.
Cords come in every shade imaginable.
And then do this.
Rapid fire.
Then do that. I've done this out of order.
Move.
Gotta clean up the shop.
Hmm. Hmm.
Feel me grasp the sheer boom of infinity.
You might die from this.
Hmm.
At last,
I'll
I
just
will
go ahead and
liberate
evolve and do a little bit more damage. Next we have a game called Wardland 3, which looks like it's a jigsaw game.
path ends here.
Let's see, 79 cents. Let's see if Wardland 1 has any reviews. Came out May 5th, 2021. It barely has 21 reviews. It is on my following list, so I'm just going to take it off, and then I'm going to come over here and see if Wardland 2 is on my following list, and no, it wasn't. So, yep, they flooded the Steam market and lost my interest. Did I actually win that time? Oh, maybe I did, but I'm not sure. Here we have a game called Flight 74, which doesn't look like anything. Flight simulators. I don't really like these flight simulators that are hyper realistic where you can't even see outside the window. VR $11.99, English only. Here we have Sword and Fairy 5 prequel, which looks like it is a Chinese RPG. It's funny it's being labeled as a prequel. That's not a phrase that gets used a lot these days. $11.04, Chinese only. Doesn't look terrible.
The world calls.
But then you have Sword and Fairy 5 also coming out at the same time. They could have waited a week or so, I would say. Doesn't look particularly interesting. That was an RPG. $11.04, Chinese only again, so that makes that real easy. Same is true for Sword and Fairy 3. Well, geez, if I knew I was just going to end up going through Sword and Fairy games, that would have saved me probably a lot of time. Next we have a game called Logistical 3. I feel like I had heard of a game like this a couple years ago and it was pretty garbage, and this also looks like garbage. $7.99. Here we have Chicken Holmes Chenislovsky Whispers, which seems to be a point-click adventure game, but it has this dark screenshot syndrome, and I'm just not seeing enough game here. $1.19, English, Portuguese, Brazil. I think we can skip that. Let's see. Next we have Nanoscape Vr, which, yeah, just looks like
Here's a knife that cuts both ways.
polygons depicting small microscopic nanoscopic things. Free, but English only. Next we have Skip Lake. I thought there was a lot more adult games than apparently there were. I must have seen the only two, and that was enough to think, oh, we've hit another one of these Fridays where they wait to release all the adult games on Friday. And I think what we'll do is we'll just do the fall list until we go to about 3 hours, and then I won't even bother to look at the news because it's Friday, it's past noon. The odds of there being any major new announcements on a Friday are low enough that it doesn't really matter. Darn it. I really do question whether I want to try and play Left 4 Dead with the people banging on the roof next door, but I suspect my microphone's not picking up any of that anyways.
Rage empowers me.
It is distracting to say the least, though. Here we have a game on Steam called Skip Lake, which seems like it's just kind of a puzzle game. The concept of skipping rocks on the lake is an interesting idea to try and program a new gameplay mechanic on, but it's a pretty boring concept to put basic puzzle game mechanics that already exist on. Like, if you're making a frisbee throwing game, it probably isn't that much difference from that point to make a
I don't need a gun. Not when I have my words.
to make a
Your Dane Dower has arrived.
rock skipping game.
Open your ears. You like
But
that?
both of those are probably mini game
Abide.
concepts, not full game concepts. Here we have a game on Steam called Planet Surf: The Last Wave. I don't think there's a game here I really would want to play. It seems like you're just going in circles, trying to collect collectibles over and over again. 69 cents English only. Yeah, it seems a little too dull. Here we have a game called Ranger Dog, which is tagged as a shoot 'em up game. Does look like a shoot 'em up game. Feels like it might just be a little dull. Not my style of gameplay. Maybe it's a troll game or joke game. $5.99 English only. Okay.
Lightning storm.
My blood is spilled.
Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Short Fuse, which looks like one of those ragdoll games where you're flinging people.
War is so intoxicating.
There was one version of this that they put enough polish into it that it seemed like it might actually be interesting. I don't think this is anywhere close to that. And that's a really old game too. $4.99 English only. Here we have a game called Minable and Create, which looks like it's either a Chinese or Japanese RPG. No real interest there. Mineable and Create is maybe the word. $19.99 English and Japanese. Feels like it's a Minecraft clone. How are we doing? Yeah, we've gotten exactly one win. So unless we can get a quick disconnect for at least one game, if not two, I feel like it's going to be a struggle. Next we have a game called One More Game that looks to be like some form of character placement RPG.
The world
Looks
calls
Chinese.
and
$2.69. Chinese only. Here we have a game called Toilet Paper Wants to Be a Basketball, which is probably a joke game. That would be my guess. You have these like giant basketballs and toilet paper rolls rolling around. It's $2.69 English and Japanese. Here we have one called Higgs Boson Challenge Puzzle, which I think we've already seen something called Higgs Boson before. Yeah, they're flooding Steam with Higgs Boson type games or named games. English full audio, 69 cents. Once again, uninteresting. Next we have Coliseum Vr, which I would like to see the Coliseum in VR. I just don't think the visual polish is quite here. It's free, so I guess the price is right. English, Japanese, and Czech. That's an odd combination of languages. Alright, I'll put this on the follow list and we'll see if there's enough reason to keep it on the follow list. I guess since it's a VR game, that what would happen is there would be some other Coliseum VR equivalent type game that came out that was better looking, and then I'd take it off the follow list. Or I'd finally just decide I'm never going to get a VR headset. You kind of know you are, though. Like, at some point, some console is going to come out and say, this is coming with a VR headset whether you like it or not. This is the wave of the future. Of course, I could have made that exact same claim in 1970. Like, at some point in the future, yes, we'll have something called VR that looks sort of like VR looks now. That's almost undeniable. But it could be a very, very long time from now.
Such a good guinea pig.
Alright, next we have a game on Steam here called Wildfire Ticket to Rock. Now, this feels like a very polished animation style. Seems like we've got a collection of animated girls in kind of a rock band. There was definitely a couple animes like this where girls form a rock band together. It's actually a visual novel. 14.39 English only. It's a kinetic visual novel, so it's linear. So I don't want to immediately dismiss this, but I suspect it not supporting Japanese and it being a linear kinetic story, that this is going to be pretty short and not particularly appealing. So we'll put it on the follow list and see if it gets reviews, and then I'll probably take it off fairly quickly.
Answers come in every shade imaginable.
Let's see. Next we have a game called Kestrel, which looks like it is a pixely shoot 'em up game for $8.49.
Let me show you what I'm
Next we have a game called Babaruka, which is tagged as a psychological horror puzzle game. I don't think there's enough visual polish here to interest me. It's coming soon, English only. Let's see, next we have Hero.exe, which looks like it's a hex grid game. Kind of a unique art style here, kind of cartoony. So some kind of card-based game. Coming soon, English full audio, single player. There might be something to that. Of course, these coming soon games, I'm not going to bother to put them on the follow list now. There's just no reason to.
Lightning storm.
Well, see, this next game is not tagged as having adult content in it, But down below it says it has strong language, sexual content, and sexual language. And the way it's listed is very strange. And I can't say for a second, it's a JRPG game that the very first screenshot is a elf girl in the tiniest bikini you could probably get away with having on Steam. Just the most micro of micro bikinis, the nipples barely being covered, and the bottom half not really even going up the hip line. And even the thumbnail, which is the same depiction, has been censored to put chest armor on there. But then there's several screenshots here showing her in the exact same pose and the exact same outfit. So they clearly are trying to sell on sex, and Steam seems to not have any problem with the game as long as it's appropriately labeled.
Did I overreach myself?
So yeah, this definitely feels like they have maybe taken out the adult content on the game, and or never had it in the first place, and they're just trying to sell it on the line. I haven't seen the cut content police curation group that I have followed on Steam. I haven't seen them post anything lately, but that's probably because I'm looking at like the newest of the newest games, and they don't get around to posting anything until later. Okay, if I did this, and we could do that. Pretty much that's all I could do though. I'm gonna do this.
The ordained hour has arrived.
Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Battle Rollers, which looks like a low effort dice rolling based RPG. $4.99 English only. Next we have a game called Express Elevator, which looks like nothing of interest, for 99 cents English and Chinese. Let's see. Next we have King and Pigs, which seems like the screenshots here aren't particularly well polished, so I'm not particularly attracted to it. There were a lot of old DOS-based games where you would just run around and try to collect like all 100 gems, and this feels a lot like that, where you're just trying to run around and collect 100 gems in a level. Yeah, I just don't think there's enough game there. $5.99, bunch of languages. Here we have a game called Kamate, unless it's Kamate. It looks like it's just an asset flip survival game. $3.74 English and Turkish. That's an odd article, or odd languages, particularly since this is supposed to be set in New Zealand, according to the descriptions. Right, this.
Spell looks so sweet, you'll get cavities.
And then this.
Honey glazed.
And then that.
The path ends here.
Next we have a game on Steam called Slick Racing Game. Which doesn't look terrible. I think it deserves a follow. Early access, English not supported, Russian only, $9.09. Well, I was gonna give it a follow, but if it's English only. This one's tagged nudity and sexual content, so let me make sure it's YouTube family friendly. Nope. This is a game called Lovesick, Luvsic. First screenshot is doing an upskirt shot of a girl showing her underwear. Next screenshot is a man, it seems, under a car with a knife and a clenched fist, seemingly about to kidnap or attack a woman stepping out of the car. Third screenshot is a pixely, completely different art style game. Maybe it wasn't a man, maybe it was a girl. Watching the trailer video, I see 2 or 3 different art styles being used, but mostly a pixely art style. I'm seeing a lot of dialogue, and I'm not seeing really any gameplay. It does kind of seem like this might be a crazy girl falls in love with a girl and stalks her. This game is $2.69, English and Chinese, and yeah, not anything I would really recommend, but it does slightly reset the clock. We've seen a couple, but really just a couple adult games today, and I don't know if this is just the new normal where only a couple adult games are getting released or allowed through some kind of secret curation process on Steam, or if maybe it's just pandemic related, and once the pandemic globally has been completely recovered from, we'll see a ton of more adult games coming out. If anything, this probably does give a hint to just how many of the adult games were coming actually from Japan. Like, the assumption was pretty much all of them were coming from Japan, like the adult anime games in particular. But there was always that possibility that it was a Korean or Russian company making a game and then saying it supports Japanese, and when it really was just poorly translated to Japanese, trying to target that audience. Moving on, we have the Mystery of Caketropolis, which seems to have dragons, which is nice, but then the rest of it looks pretty boring and looks like it's an RPG game. $9.99. They're saying it's somewhere between Trigger Happy Havoc, which I might as well just play another hour of that game to get straight up to 700, and LA Noire, which once again, those two games are not anywhere close to each other. Here we have a game called Lasagna Boy, which is green like a Game Boy game, but then once again zoomed in, so you get better, higher resolution. They're calling it a 2D platformer action adventure horror game. I wonder if he's supposed to be like a pizza boy, but they decided to go a little weirder and have somebody deliver lasagna instead of pizza. This feels like this might be a fairly short game, but if anything, it might be somewhat akin to a Prince of Persia clone. $5.94, English only. I'll put that on the fall list, in the sense that the first Prince of Persia game, you're wandering around to save a princess.
Well, on to the next project.
Let's see. Next, we have a game called Monobot, which looks like a side-scrolling game. I'm not sure
The uncharted desert
I need
awaits.
to see it in motion to see actually what you're doing there. Are you controlling robots and getting from point A to point B? Or are you doing something trickier? Seems like the robot may
Face you head on.
jump into the brains of other robots or teleport itself. Yeah, I think I'm confused enough on this game that I need to put it on the follow list. $12.74, bunch of languages. It's kind of pathetic to say, well, if a game trailer confuses me enough but intrigues me enough also, I'll just put it on the follow list and try and figure it out later. But that's absolutely the case as to how it actually works. Here we have a game called Yin Yu, which looks like it's some kind of poorly animated MS Paint platformer for $3.99, English only. So we have only about 5 more tabs, so I'm just going to go through them all. Here we have a game called Quinn, which seems like some card game I don't recognize. I do like card games. $1.79 is not asking a lot. English and Portuguese, Brazil. Stick that on full follow. English and online PvP. Here we have a game called Simple Ray Tracing Minigame 10, which clearly is a tech demo and not something that should have ever been allowed on Steam. $10.49, English only. Here we have a game called Zagu Espionage, which looks like garbage. It's free, English only. Here we have a game called The Last Stand, which is an asset flip first-person shooter for free. And then finally we have a game called Dungeon Knight, which looks like nothing. And so with that,
Colts come in every shade imaginable.
I am,
Glimpse into
I
the future
think,
is only the beginning.
done. The only thing I guess I could think about would be, do I want to try and find a different do I want to try and find a different news source? Because Game and Vision is not really giving us a lot of news. I think I want to kind of hold off on that. Like, I've got a couple other sites that I might want to consider, but let's give them a week and outside of E3. Here's the Shadowverse, a treasure trove of rupees. Play private matches every day for 1 winner per day for a total of 12 winners to win 500,000. Second prize is 5 winners per day for a total of 60 winners to win 50,000. Meanwhile, also, if we just play, we should be able to get everything. It's funny that they're using this character because this character would be definitely a character I would not really want to pay any attention to or give any fanfare to. Okay. So then that leaves me with the follow list cleanup. So we have one here. It's April 2020, Beats of Fury. I could probably reload a lot of these things and see if there's been any changes in the past days or weeks, but probably there hasn't been. There's no relevancy on a game like this is the problem. It's early access still since April. And I'm trying to be somewhat generous because of the pandemic, but in reality, there's just no relevancy there. Yeah, we have one called Bed Survival, which is mostly negative. So, yeah. I'm gonna get rid of that. See if we can get rid of all the bees. Here we have one called Berserker, which isn't, we're trying to get rid of things from 2020 specifically. Again, just no relevancy here on these games. This also looks like a new Tucker game where they would have potentially sold it as having adult content in a different form. Here we have Beyond the Stars VR, which I guess I'll keep that on the follow list. Here we have Beyond the Wire. Is this a multiplayer game? Yeah, this is online PvP, so it's just not my style of game. But Beyond the Wire does look like potentially a better World War II experience than some of the other Battlefield experiences. Let's see. Here we have a game called Biomass, which is tagged as a Metroidvania game. It's very positive. Is it in early access? No. So we can put that on the wish list. There we have Bite at the Museum. Not yet. Here we have Black Chapter, which doesn't have enough relevancy with only 13 reviews. It looks like it's an RPG / visual novel game. I think I can easily get rid of this. Yeah, so far I'm not having a real hard time eliminating things. Black Legend. It's a shame it's mixed, because this looks like this might have been something. But yeah, mixed reviews, even though it's fairly recent game, tells me I shouldn't put any more thought into it. Yeah, we have one called Blackberry, which apparently is a horror game that is being rated very positively. I don't know how many of these horror games I'd really want to play though, but better to have a wish list full of good horror games instead of bad horror games. Here we have one called Black Chain. These are in alphabetical order, obviously, which looks like a real-time strategy game. Does have single player. Yeah, I think that's enough to put on the wish list. I think I may end up putting too much on the wish list. Here we have Blade Flash Death. Nothing there. Not enough reviews. This one sadly doesn't seem to have enough reviews either. Blade of Arena. Kinda looks interesting, but also been in early access since October of 2020. Here we have one called Blake the Visual Novel. Not yet.
I have lost.
Here we have Blank Space as a visual novel with
The journey continues.
if I recall correctly, this is the one where like these two people just wake up in this room and they're trapped in it, and it's an escape the room type concept. $4.49 English only. Does have sexual content in it, so I'd have to be somewhat careful about that. but it has enough reviews, over 30 reviews, so I'll put it on the wish list. Let's see. What I really want to do is close all these tabs that I'd opened, and I'm gonna have to be really careful going forward. What's funny is there was 2 different games called Blind, and this one is mixed. I closed the other one, so I'm gonna remove this because it's not reviewed high enough. But yeah, I want to close all these tabs, and I want to reevaluate how I would pull this off going forward as far as opening tabs. I think when I have small bits of free time, I'll probably open the letter C or whatever the next letter is, and then curate it once by only keeping things that I really should look at. But I don't know. That seems like a lot of extra time. Seems like no matter what you do, you're gonna end up with a lot of time. A lot of time spent on this. Yeah, we have a game called Blind Drive, which looks like it's too surreal of a game for me. It's an audio-based game, that's why it looks surreal. And it is positively reviewed, so it deserves the wish list. Now, just because something goes to the wish list does not inherently mean that it is going to end up being purchased, but it means it is qualifying to be purchased. Like this game, Blind Quest, I don't know why this would have even been on the fall list. This looks like garbage. Sometimes I think I just randomly click things on accident. Here we have Blind Shot. Here we have Block Kicker. This one doesn't have enough reviews. So yeah, it's all this really is a Sokoban puzzle game. So yeah, that's gotta leave the fall list. Let's see. Next we have one called Block's Hammer of the Scots, which is mixed, so we can take that off. It's also early access. Let's not look at that one yet. Blood Rain Terminal Cut is already in my library, so no reason for that to be on the fall list unless I was specifically trying to remind myself to play Blood Rain 2 Terminal Cut, which I should, because they're making a new release of the spin-off Blood Rain games, which really does not connect to the main Blood Rain games. Here we have something called Blood Roots. Is it early access? Nope. Is it single player? Yes. Alright. I'm trying really hard to not even look at these games and just trust myself that I made a decent decision to put it on the fall list in the first place, which I kind of know I didn't. So I'm fooling myself. Let's see, here we have one called Blue Fire, which is mostly positive, yet mixed in the last 30 days. That's a weird twist. Let's see if we can figure out why. Unplayable, bad performance on a 3080. Some bugs here and there. I guess I'll give Blue Fire a little bit more time to maybe patch itself, but if I end up looking at this next time and it's still mixed reviews, then I think I'll have to say no to it.
Best of luck to you.
Let's see. Here we have something called a bunch of numbers.
Be gone.
Bow your head.
Yep.
Prepare for the end.
I think we have to skip this. It's just not relevant. Does this look like something of interest to me? Not really. It's mixed in the last 30 days. Overall, it's very positive. Requires VR headsets. Single player only. Let's give it one last look. I think that can leave. Here we have a game that's not relevant because it has only like 10 reviews, so that can leave, even though it is positive. Let's see, deal 5 damage. Destroy that. Do that.
Don't give up.
See. Here we have a game called Bone Marrow, which is mixed, so that can go. Here we have Boneworks. Boneworks is a VR game, but it's very positive, so you don't have to consider that. Here we have Boo Done It. Is this a VR game? No, it's a free-to-play game. Is it a student project? Not really. I guess I put this on the wish list, even though it's free. So if I ever have a need to play a free game, I'll have it there. Although generally, I just say if you have a free game to just check it out yourself. There's no real purchasing advice that needs to be given.
Honey glazed.
The ordained hour has arrived. Here comes the sugar rush.
Okay, we did that.
Time to retreat.
Sweet enough
Yeah,
for
we
you.
did that.
We will greet the new dawn.
And then the turn. Here we have the Bookbound Brigade, which unfortunately this was the group of characters that just got taller and taller, and you stacked them on top, and that sounded like an interesting idea, but nobody ever played it or reviewed it, obviously, and it was mixed reviewed for the 13 people who did review it. Here we have a game called Boom. We'll consider that later. Here we have one called Boss Rush Mythology. Yeah, I don't think there's enough visual polish for this. The concept of fighting a bunch of mythological creatures is an interesting idea. It's just there needs to be more polish to it. Well, I mean, technically this does qualify to be on the wish list. Just don't see myself wanting to really play this. Like, each one of these bosses could have been a great fight in a different game, better programmed, instead of having one collection of poorly animated versions of that fight. Right, well, we first of all kill that.
Wait, not yet.
And then maybe we do this.
This isn't your run-of-the-mill
And then
spell.
do that. next we have Bow to Blood, Last Captain Standing. Yeah, this doesn't look like anything. Free to play, Steam only. Was this a student project? I mean, honestly, even if it was a student project, I don't care.
Is it edible? Only one way to find out.
Yeah, sometimes I definitely feel like, what was I thinking to even put some of these games on the follow list? Well, also, I'm burning through these very quickly, so I could be making some mistakes. But mistakes will happen. Here we have Bowsette. I think Bowsette at this point is not going to get any better for the gimmick. Bowsette also is a meme, pretty much gone. I don't expect to hear much more about her.
A glimpse into the future is only the beginning.
Happy? Ricky!
Time to retreat!
Here we have Box Cats Puzzle, which is, yeah, puzzle game. It looks good enough. $1.99. I think we can put that on the wish list. Yeah, next we have Box Kids Adventure.
Desert awaits.
You know, I might just close everything that starts with C once I get to C. This one doesn't have enough reviews, so it's just not relevant enough. That would be in a way of fixing this problem, but it really is just not fixing the overall issue of there being a lot of games on the follow list that need to be cleaned up. This boxing coach, unfortunately, is not reviewed well. That's a shame. Here we have a mostly negative game for Box VR. It was very positive before. What happened? Let's see. Just get Power Beats VR instead. It's not supported on Steam by the developers, and they're still selling it for $30. Okay, well, I guess you just go find Power Beats VR instead.
Try calculations set. Ready to summon.
Lightning storm!
Belong now.
This is how you cast. Best of luck to you.
I'm slowing down here. We need to pretty much wrap up. Here we have a game called Brain Boom, which is some kind of cartoony zombie shooter. Is it early access? No. It's no longer available on sale. That's a shame. That looked interesting. Let's see. Bravery Network Online. Is this an online game? It's early access, single player. They're still working on it. Some kind of fighting game from the looks of it. Looks like girls fighting girls. But that's an interesting idea, certainly. An old girls fighting or ninja wrestling league. Okay, well. If I did this,
Try calculations
could
set. Ready to summon.
do this, then evolve this.
Blessed is the promised day.
The actual game does not look like it's actually a fighting game, though. It looks like it's a turn-based, like, team building, character collecting game. It is early access, so we'll leave it on the follow list. We're still waiting for Bright Memory Infinite, but there's no reason for it to be on the follow list. That game in particular has been talked about plenty of times. We have Bright Paw as a kind of Hitman Go looking game, it looks like. $9.99, positive, single player, yep. That can go to the wish list. See, I'm not even playing ranked, so I should be getting more disconnects, but I'm not. Next we have Brimstone Brawlers, which is rated very positive. It's early access, but it's online PvP too, so I don't know why it was on the fall list anyways. Let's see. Here we have something called Bring Dad Home, which is apparently bringing your drunk father home. Joke game. $2.99. Just no relevancy as far as the reviews. Let's see. Buck Bradley Comic Adventure 2. I think we can take that off. There's no relevancy there. And we'll see if Comic Adventure 1 even exists. Nope. So we'll take that off. Next we have Buddy Simulator 1984, which is overwhelmingly positive. As clearly it's some kind of subversive game. 99 cents. It's gotta go to the wish list. Although, in all honesty, it's probably not a game I'd particularly want to play. Buildings Have Feelings Too is mixed, so we can get rid of that. Bullet Roulette is very positive, but VR only, so we don't need to consider that. Bunny Hill, it doesn't have enough reviews to be relevant, which is a shame because it looks like it could have been something. Let's see. OGB's Revenge is 22% positive. I want to give this one another shot because this game looks kind of interesting, but it's also early access from November of 2020, so if it's still in early access 6 months to a year from now, then that's a big problem. Next we've got a steampunk visual novel. It's 15% positive, so that's just not relevant enough, and it's very, very easy to reject a visual novel, knowing how many of them exist. Here we have Calico, which is very positive. It's not early access, so it can just go to the wish list. Yep. Didn't even really look at what the game was, but it doesn't matter. That looks good. Good enough. Here we have Cannibal Crossing. Very positive. Is it early access? Yes, it is. So we'll want to wait till that comes out of early access. Here we have Captain Pegleg with no reviews. So it leaves. Card Blitz World War II. Do I want to play a World War II card-based game? Not really, but there's nothing stopping me from putting this on the wish list as just a backup collectible card game in case I decide ever to quit wasting my time with Shadowverse. I'm still waiting for the Ben Brode Second Dinner card game, Marvel card game, to come out. I suspect Marvel will still be super popular when it does come out, as long as it doesn't take another 2 or 3 years. And at that point, from day one, I will play that game and will probably be in a very nice position to be a free-to-player who has a decent amount of the cards and can actually compete on some level. Let's see. Next we have a game called Card Hog, which looks like it's a match 3 card game, or fortunately it's early access still. Here we have one called Card Norak, Raid of the Gods. Looks kind of interesting, but it's probably pretty simplistic. Single player only. A lot of these card games are not online, free to play type games, so I could show them off in the spotlight, but I'm not going to be able to play them forever. Here we have Card Apocalypse, which is rated very positive. So, yep, put that on the wish list. Although I do recall this game was fairly kind of trollish in its content.
Into the future is only the beginning.
You wouldn't.
Let's see, here we have Carnival Games. This is available on the Switch. I would really question if you shouldn't get this on the Switch more than Steam. And maybe you shouldn't get it even on Steam. It's interesting that there's no relevancy here. $3.99. It's published by 2K, and it has like 2 user reviews. You'd think 2K would have spent more advertising budget to at least see people review it. We have a game called Carrier Trail. Which feels like it's an Oregon Trail clone. $9.99, but not enough reviews. So, thinking it has to leave the follow list. There's just not enough relevancy there. And at certain points, that may just be the issue with Oregon Trail in general, is that there's just not enough relevancy there.
This isn't your run-of-the-mill spell.
Let's see, next we have a game called Carrot Heart, which has no reviews and is in early access. Let's see. It's a shame because it looks kind of good. I'll make an exception and give it a little bit more time. Here we have Cartel Tycoon. Do I really want to play a game called Cartel Tycoon? Yeah, I think I do if it came out of early access. Here we have Cartoon Forest Defend Cardboard Castle. That can go away. Although the idea of building a cardboard castle is an interesting idea. Here we have one called Cascading Failure, which is mixed, so that can go away. Here we have one that we'll have to wait on for a little longer. Castle Grimrock, not enough reviews. Say something. No, I just don't think so.
For the inferno.
A glimpse into the future is only the beginning.
Let's see. Evolve here.
The ordained hour has arrived.
My crystal sword will bring a new tomorrow. I am beyond prophecy.
A fitting end.
Next we have Cat Gets Medieval, which seems like half fantasy RPG, half playing as a cat, which is an interesting thought, but it's early access, so we'll have to give it some more time. Here we have a different game called The Cat Lady that is just barely on the edge, but it's early access again, so we'll give it some more time. See, it would be fairly easy if I could just filter out the early access games or get rid of early access games that had come out in 2019 or earlier. Then like, this is June 2020 and it's early access and has 2 reviews. I think this doesn't deserve any more time at that point. Honestly, it would be very helpful if Steam just eliminated a lot of games that were in early access for more than a year. Yeah, we have this game called Catch the Stars, which this doesn't look like really much of a puzzle game, so I'm gonna drop it. I recall when I first saw it, it didn't even look like it was much of a puzzle game. Here we have Catlandia from February. And it just has like 10 mostly positive reviews. Just don't think there's enough relevancy there for that. And there's already a couple of cat-based RPG games to consider. Here we have Cat Mafia. Again, everything alphabetical. So we'll skip that. Here we have Coliseum Voices in the Dark. Some kind of card battle game. Free to play with in-app purchases. Mostly positive. I guess these card games were previously on the fall list, but they should be on the wish list. That makes a lot more sense. Here we have Cave Bug Boy. No relevancy there, so we can get rid of that. Here we have a game called Celeste that looks really pretty, but is mixed reviewed overall. So, yeah, I've got plenty of JRPG style games, so if one's not being reviewed well, it should just be removed. There we go, we got another free disconnect. Let's see. So what missions do we even have left? One more runecraft and that would be our entire daily quest. Here we have something called Chain to Victorian Nightmare. It's mostly positive, just not a lot of reviews. And it requires VR. Yeah, that's the one reason why I'm gonna leave it on the fall list. Here we have something called Changed.
You must die.
Which is rated very positive, so people like this. I don't know why, but mob rule on that. When you have 4,000 people rating it very positive, you have to take the word for it. Whereas Charlie the Roach came out in 2017, has only one review, so that can go away. Game called Chaser here. Looks like just an old first-person shooter. And after playing Fear, I don't really have any reason to want to play particularly old first-person shooter games. Like single player only, $4.99. Yeah, even if this is being published by THQ Nordic and came out in 2003, I just don't think there's enough relevancy there. See, here we have a game called Cheat or Die, where I guess you're cheating. Looks like a Rick and Morty. Yeah, because that definitely looks like Morty. $5.99. I feel like I want to give this more time to think about it, because the concept seems kind of funny, but I bet the game isn't much, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's really, it'll just never be relevant as a game, and so it'll never get more reviews. Let's give that some more time. There's that game Chernobyl Light, which is early access. Some of these games will actually come out for early access. But I bet a lot of them don't. Chief's Quest. Would love to play a Native American game. but it's getting really hard to justify playing any of those. Here we have one called Childhood Friends, which large bust on that character. Let's see what we have. Sure no file, walking simulator, 99%. Well, it's very positive, so guess you do. You put that on the follow list. I wish there was any kind of games like walking simulators that were actually easier to make footage about. This is a box pushing puzzle game. It just isn't relevant though, so Chipmunk's Adventures. So no to that. Yeah, we have a game called Chroma, not a collectible card game. Rated very positively. No relevancy on this game, so that goes away. What I mean by relevancy, in case you haven't been getting it, is if there's 30 reviews in total that have ever happened. And we have a roguelike deck builder game. It's rated very positive. It's still early access. Came out in December of 2019. It's a shame because Chrono Arc does look nice. Where Chronos Before the Ashes is mixed, so we'll lose that. This came out in January, so I think this visual novel is not relevant. So we'll lose that. Meanwhile, Cinderella Phenomenon, Otome visual novel, is rated overwhelmingly positive, so I think you have to consider that. I guess it's also because it's free to play. So I guess if I absolutely need a free to play young maiden visual novel, that'll go on the wish list. Meanwhile, Cinderella Phenomenon Evermore is also very positive, and that's $9.99, so I guess you wishlist that also. Let's see, we have Scions of Vega. That can take some more time because it's a 2021 release. This racing game seems to be very positive, but it's early access, so we'll wait. Here we have Citadel, the Awakened Spirit. It's a shame. I like the thumbnail, but I think the game itself looks fairly generic and pixely, and it obviously has no relevance to it, so it can go away too.
For the end is near.
Let's see. That can take some more time. This can go away for being irrelevant. That can take some more time, so I won't even consider it, even though it did have barely over 30. This can go away for being relevant. It's Claude Monet VR stuff. Actually, I probably would want to keep that, so I'll keep that. I may be accidentally removing some VR things. Let's see, Clea 1 is already on the wish list, so Clea 2 being on the wish list makes sense. Cloud Cutter, is this a shoot 'em up game? I'll give it some more time to think about that. I don't know if I really want to play any shoot 'em up games. This game is not relevant, so we can get rid of that. That's a 2021 game, so we'll give it some more time. This is a 2020 game. I think I might want to give it some more time. Apparently this is about programming and a visual novel, so maybe
This one's for my
that
family.
would convince me to play it more. Also, it has a kind of unique art style. I wonder if the Harry Potter books were animated like that, whether they would have been better received or worse received. Yeah. Or at least getting rid of a lot of stuff. Code S44, Episode 1. Still early access from 2019. I think we can get rid of that at that point. Like if these games come out of early access a year or two later, there's a real issue there. Yeah, this is a free-to-play game, so I'll put it on the wish list since it's rated very positive. A lot of these, I think, definitely have to do with the price. And if the price is free, a lot of people are willing to lower the price. Yeah, this is an early access game from 2020, collectible card game. Should definitely is a question around collectible card games needing to not be in early access. Again, that doesn't make a lot of sense. This one's very positive, but it's early access. This one needs some more time. Let's see, coloring book for adults. It's very positive. One of these coloring book games was not well received, though. Was it the coloring book for kids? Nope, that's positive too, so maybe they fixed their problems, or maybe I'm thinking of a different creator. Suppose this barely follows the 30 reviews to make it relevant enough. So I'll put that on the wish list. Combat chess. I kind of would like to check this out. What's the price? $4.99. It's been as low as $2.49 as a combat chess, battle chess clone from 1997. Would I want this? I think no. I just don't think there's enough relevancy here. It'd be nice if there was a combat or battle chess clone from modern time, but something from 1997 doesn't matter. This doesn't have positive reviews. Programming puzzle game, mostly positive. Is it early access? No. I'm a sucker for puzzle games, so we'll put that on the wish list. I'm seeing the beginning of the end, too, as far as tabs are being open on this, so I want to particularly get rid of the remaining, I'd say about 50 tabs. And clean up some stuff. Apparently we reached level 100 in Runecraft. I thought this was going to ask me to go back and reload in, but it didn't. So I kind of have nothing to do with Shadowverse, so let's just focus here on the remaining tabs, and then that's going to be it. I'm not going to look at the news, so if there's any news that happens, we'll talk about it on Monday, and then we'll wrap up fairly quickly as I am burning through these tabs. See this Connect X game. Yeah, it seems like a very complicated puzzle game that doesn't have any relevancy, so I'm going to say no to that. The problem, certainly every time I look at the fall list, is that it is being done at least subconsciously in consideration with just how big the library is, and the wish list. So this is another one of those Mob City Builder games. I guess that goes on the wish list. So yeah, when I have a couple extra 100 games in my library that I've already purchased and not gotten around to playing, that makes it harder to justify even beginning to consider to buy something new. And when I have a wish list of better games that is growing and growing, that also makes it harder to justify putting things on the wish list. Is Cook Serve Delicious 3 even playable on single player? I was thinking of something completely different. Is this really from the same developers as Cook Serve Delicious 1 and 2? I think there are 2 games on Steam called Cook Serve Delicious. Interesting. So then the question becomes, do I really want to play a cooking game? Because this is one of those games that is just simulating doing someone's job. And I feel like this is very pretty looking. I guess what we do is we'll put the first one on the wish list, and then we'll take the third one off the fall list. And that way I can think about playing the first game and then work my way up that way. Here we have a game called Cookie Invaders, which looks like a shoot 'em up game. I don't know why this would have been on the fall list in the first place. Shooting cookies, as interesting as it may be, is not enough. Let's see, we'll give that one a little bit more time. We have an editor, copy editor regex game, mostly positive. Early access, I'll give it some more time. Cornflake Crisis. Think that's run out of time. So we'll get rid of that. It's just not relevant enough. Give this some more time. That very well may not get 30 reviews. This visual novel doesn't have enough reviews. So we'll get rid of that. We'll give that some more time since it came out in 2021. Cosmo Dread is a VR game, so I'll leave it on the fall list because it's very positive. Couch installation service. It's not relevant enough. Plus, yeah. It's kind of a dull concept. This is Couch Monsters, local co-op. Says it could be single player, but yeah, I think we can eliminate that. Cradle of Lynx from 2000. The VR first person shooter. It's early access. Oh, I'm gonna give that more time. Craftlands. Doesn't look like anything of interest, and it's early access, so I'm gonna take that off. That's a 2021 game, so it gets more time. That's a 2021 game, so that gets more time. Let's see, Crazy Engineer. This came out November 1st, 2020, and it has no reviews at all, so I think that's irrelevant. That makes the game irrelevant. Very positive creature aquarium simulator. Let's see, 1999. I guess that makes it to the wish list. Although, in all fairness, I question whether I'd really want to buy it. Here, we'll give this more time. Here's Chris Tales. It's not out yet. This is a game we had just seen them talk about. So yeah, we can take that off the default list just because it's not out yet. Next we have Critters for Sale, which looks like a very weird game, but it is very positively reviewed. So I'm gonna have to just go with Mob Rule and put that on the wish list. Give that some more time. Here we have a game called Crumble, which is rated very positively. So that makes it to the wish list. If anything, it feels like there's too many things making it to the wish list. Crying Sun, rated very positively, but maybe not my style of game. Well, it's already on the wish list, so whatever. We have a game called Cryo Gear, which is irrelevant, not enough reviews. Let's see, Crypt Stalker. Definitely looks like an NES game. I'm not sure I want to play something like that. Yeah. I'd have to give that a lot of thought if I was actually going to play something like that. Cryptics is mixed reviewed, so it can go away. Crystal Call. It's a running parkour game, but it does have a nice visual polish to it. And doesn't just look particularly low effort. Very positive, free. So we'll put that on the wish list. Doesn't even have any app purchases, so feels like it might be a student project. Yeah, it is. So, yeah. Crystal Chasers League, not enough reviews. So we'll get rid of that. Plus it's early access. Let's see. No relevance here, so we'll get rid of that. Yep. The only thing I guess I'm really risking if I get rid of a lot of things is that if I got really, really desperate, say 10 years down the line, I would have to go through every single game on Steam a second time and reconsider things. And I doubt that would happen. This is already on the wish list, so we can close that. Cyanide and Happiness for Apocalypse is mixed reviewed, unfortunately, so we'll get rid of that. Cyber Fight is mixed, so we'll get rid of that. Cyber Shadow is very positive, so he goes to the wish list. Cybernetic Fault is still early access, so I'll give it a little bit more time, but it needs to fairly quickly come out of early access or it's gonna get dropped. I think a lot of the games on my wish list that are early access need to be reconsidered too. Next time there's a wish list cleanup, or time for me to do a wish list cleanup. This is not relevant. Alright, this is mostly positive. That's what I was hoping for, was that there would be some kind of Godzilla fighting game. It's early access though. Again, they need to come out of early access. We have a game called Dan Cop, which just does not seem relevant enough. Apparently this was originally a 1996 original game. I don't recognize it though. I feel like yeah, even if this was a remake of something from 1996, it's clearly not relevant. Nobody's reviewing it now. It doesn't seem like I can recognize. I don't recall anything called that then. Here we have Dandy Ace. We moved over from the C's to the D's a little bit also. I guess that's very positive, so that can go to the wish list. Now, unless there's a considerably small number of D's, then it should still be fairly fine. Dark Bestiary, turn-based combat, rated very positive, $11.99. Yeah, at some point it does feel like I'll probably do a wishlist cleanup of just specific categories, and I'll just have to say, yeah, I don't really want to play those kinds of games. I guess this game, Monsters and Mortals, Dark Deception, Monsters and Mortals, I guess it makes it to the fall list, even though it's online PvP only. Yeah. Well, that's gonna take forever. Thank goodness they finally added the ability to remove things from a wish list. Like, you can now pull down and click remove from wish list. But yeah, this is an online PvP game, so no to that. Dark Judgment sadly seems to have no relevancy. Seems to be a beat 'em up game. But honestly, a beat 'em up game or a fighting game, both of those, there's better choices. So that's an easy loss. Dark Room is mixed and irrelevant, so we can get rid of that. And I have like 3 more tabs. Dark Space is irrelevant. Yeah, I'm not even looking at the games so much so that they don't try and convince me to potentially come back and leave them on the fall list. What is this? 10 Miles to Safety. Some kind of top-down twin stick shooter game. Strategy and zombie games. Yeah, it's mostly positive. Although it's teetering on the positively rating. Alright, well, with that, I am in very nice position. I've been able to clean up and get rid of the tabs that were open, and that puts me in like a much better position for Monday. that's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.